This segment is brought to you by Waits and Downer, attorneys at law.
Everybody, welcome into By Time. Harry McCullough here. There's been an arrest in the SVU, the Special Victims Unit of Terrebonne Parish. Here to talk more about it is First Lieutenant Blake Tabor. Thanks so much for being with us. SVU, a lot of times we hear that term on TV, but it gets real when you guys make an arrest here. So
absolutely. So, again, we sing the praises of our Special Victims Unit all the time. These are a group of men and women that have to deal with things that, people shouldn't have to deal with, unfortunately, but they do a fantastic job with it. So ultimately, this case came to fruition September of this year in the beginning when we were called to a local high school where a student there had reported being abused sexually to a school official. Okay. So ultimately, our patrol division quickly responded to that school, made contact with the victim, where they began to get some credible details as it related to the abuse. And she began to outline a lot of history of what was transpiring with the perpetrator. Ultimately, she identified the perpetrator as a James Bogan Jr. He's a 56-year-old male from Houma. You see him photographed here. And once that discovery was made, ultimately our SVU detectives came in, took over that investigation, and they began to do what they do best, right? Ultimately, during the course of that investigation, not only did they substantiate through evidence that the female was in fact abused by Bogan, they also found identifying information of a second victim and potentially more. So again, an interview was done with that second victim who did come forward and provided a series of details as it related to the sexual misconduct with Bogan years prior. And ultimately, that led to the detective securing an arrest warrant for 4 counts of indecent behavior with a juvenile. And again, on October 20th of this year, shortly before 2 p.m., our Criminal Intelligence Division and Criminal Patrol Division came into contact with him during a traffic stop and arrested him for those charges. So he is currently in jail at our facility on a $200,000 bond by local judges.
So when you talk about going to a school, reporting to a school, he's not a teacher.
He is not a teacher. It was important for us to make sure that we explained how this information surfaces, because nowadays kids think that it's only okay to report it to family members or maybe a neighbor. You can report this information to anybody, and I think this case was very important to kind of highlight that detail, that we want kids to be able to come to school administrators, teachers, police officers, firefighters, medical, anyone that they feel comfortable talking to. It's not just the police that they can come to and report this.
It might be a safer spot for them too,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, if you have a guy that's in charge of the whole household with financially, a lot of people may turn the other way.
Absolutely. Right. Things can definitely happen. And it was really important that this case surfaced in the way that it did.
Right. And so it'll be an ongoing investigation.
It is. So again, there's a high likelihood for additional charges as it relates to these victims. But again, we're just starting to scrape the surface as to, what this could potentially be. So we'll definitely keep you up to speed on moving forward.
It's unfortunate, but
it is.
Yeah, those things usually are not isolated. So.
Absolutely.
The next case involved, it's a cold case, right? And this is the Terrebonne Sheriff's Office in, I guess, Terrebonne Parish, but in Thibodaux.
Correct.
And so tell me about this case.
Sure. So this was an incident that happened on October 31st of 2020. Again, a lot of people will remember this one because it was during COVID. This was a very highly anticipated and highly sought after case that we worked on a lot. We were trying to get some suspect information, which never really surfaced in this particular case. If you remember back in that time, there was a lot of shootings that were taking place, and this one sort of happened right in the middle of all of these things happening. So this was one that happened on Cortez Street, again, on Halloween night of 2020, where a Jardney Bell ultimately died from wounds that he afflicted during that particular shooting incident. So we are bringing this back now because we are hoping that as we come upon the 5-year anniversary, you see Jardney photographed here, as we come upon the 5-year anniversary, we're hoping that people can revisit this, re-highlight this, and maybe bring some attention to the case and maybe get a suspect involved in this.
Help me out. Did we trick or treat in 2020?
I don't remember if we did or not, but this was, this one kind of came on the heels. Yeah, this was on the heels of COVID, and this one happened as a result. Again, Mr. Bell, from all intents and purposes, was in an area that he should not have been. And, things happen on Halloween night, right? There are parties, there are after parties. There's a lot of different things that were transpiring. As a matter of fact, while this particular shooting was happening, there was another shooting that was happening that we could hear and detectives could hear in the Marydale area, which was handled by the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office simultaneously to this one. So, there's just a lot of moving parts with this, but we hope people will understand that, Jardney Bell was a father, he was a son, and, he is dearly missed by his family, and we're hoping that we can bring him some closure and bring the family some closure.
Yeah, and hopefully somebody knows something, and I'm sure Crime Stoppers will be involved.
Absolutely. So we're asking anyone, if you want to report information, we certainly can get that information directly at the Sheriff's Office, 985-876-2500. Or there's also the Crime Stoppers Bayou region at 1-800-743-7433, or also crimestoppersbr.org. And then you can also report that on the Bayou Tips mobile app. And it's important for people to understand that, tipsters could be eligible for up to $1,000 for any information that leads to an arrest.
And that a lot of times is what you need in a cold case like this?
Absolutely. Look, and it's not just about money. We hope that people will really allow this to enter their heart and understand that it's about doing the right thing and bringing closure for this very good family.
All right, Blake Tabor, appreciate the updates, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll be right back with more Bayou Time right after this.
This segment was brought to you by Waits and Downer, attorneys at law.